This video is an open letter to the Young Turks on the subject of furries. First off, Chank, Anna, I want to thank you both for the support that you do give to the furry community. Especially you, Anna, because you both put out a lot of effort to try and give us a fair shake. And most people don't do that. However, at the same time, I can't discount the fact that you two are just painfully uninformed about this topic. You act like being a furry is a fetish, and the fact is it's simply not. Though of course there are those in the fandom who will treat it like a fetish, or think that it is a fetish. But just because they're wrong doesn't make you any more right. Well, if that's not what a furry is, then what is a furry? Well, a furry is a person who has an interest in or affinity for anthropomorphic animals. Animals with human-like characteristics. Everything from the main character from Disney's Brother Bear, who was a bear in body but had human cognition, yet he couldn't speak, to Draco from Dragonheart, who is a dragon in physicality but can speak and has human cognition, to Disney's Robin Hood, where all the characters are both animal and human at the exact same time. To have an interest in that specific type of fantasy creature is what it means to be a furry. Period. Anything more specific than that is something that's specific to the individual furry we're talking about. Now, Chank, you've asked, and rightly so.
So here's what I need to find out, right? So, because in some of the pictures they had kids and stuff like that, and they're having fun, yada yada. It bothers me a little bit. Anyway, so what percentage of this is about sex?
Of course, you're not asking for exact percentages here. There isn't such a thing when we're talking about this kind of subject. But the point is that being a furry has nothing to inherently do with sex. Humans simply are sexual, and therefore anything in which they're interested generally has their sexuality transposed onto it. Like, you have an anime fan, and very often they like pornography that is animated. That doesn't mean that their interest in anime is motivated by that sexual interest. Very often, it's the other way around instead. And so the percentage of this that has to do with sex is dependent on the individual, and it's in no way necessary to being a member of the fandom to have any kind of sexual interest that has anything to do with any of this. So obviously, if you don't have to have any sexual interest in it whatsoever, then it's fallacious to say that the entire fandom is predicated upon it, right? Just like, again, going back to the anime analogy, an anime fan can have a specific interest in the comics as opposed to actually watching the television shows. Just like a furry fan can have an interest in the art, puppetry, costuming, animation, fantasy, mythos, writing fantasy fiction with these types of characters in them, or any number of things that people could do to show their interest in this. And so you look at things in that way, and Chank, again, asks the question of, what about kids being at these conventions? It makes him feel a little uncomfortable. And I understand where that's coming from based on his current perspective. But with this understanding, it obviously makes sense. And so it's very normal for children to be interested in these things. In fact, it's only here recently that our society has decided that an interest in these types of mythical creatures is specifically meant for children by way of the cartoons that we have and things of that nature. In fact, if you take a look at the official website for the largest furry convention in the world, Anthrocon, and right on their website they have something that says, "What is furry?" And right there on their official website, they themselves say, "If we look at the world around us, we will see that anthropomorphized animals are an integral part of our culture. We use them to represent our political parties. We talk to our dogs," and some even imagine they talk back, though in their own way. "We put a tiger in our tank. We cheer for mascots, anthropomorphic animals dressed in team uniforms, at our favorite sporting events." Chank, you know about that one. A casual observer may simply be unaware that it's only in the last 40 years that cartoons and cartoon animals have been relegated to the world of children. Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, and their ilk were once targeted primarily to an adult audience, their productions filled with innuendo and biting political satire. Fans of anthropomorphics today simply have not forgotten those roots. The average furry fan is cast from the same mold as the science fiction or sword and sorcery fan. All of us imagine strange and thrilling worlds and try to picture ourselves living in those worlds. They go on to say, exemplifying the diversity of the fandom, we count among our ranks professional sports mascots, animators, cartoonists, puppeteers, artists, illustrators, and writers, as well as those who simply think that it would be a wonderful thing if animals would walk or talk like we do. If you as an adult still occasionally like to flip to the old cartoons or have a stuffed animal sitting on the dashboard of your car or buy cereal because it has a cool tiger on the box, you may well enjoy what our fandom has to offer. And so, Chank, I submit that it's perfectly normal to expect children to want to have fun at these conventions with their parents and hang out with people who enjoy these kinds of things. Unless, of course, you think it would be odd for a child to enjoy watching Bugs Bunny cartoons and talking about them with their friends. And on the suits, by the way, because that's the main thing you guys harp on, it's the thing that you seem to think is the fandom, is people dressing up in these suits. The suits are only worn by a very small minority of people in the fandom. I think best estimates from some of the largest conventions around the world put it at around 15%. So, while they are a part of the fandom, they certainly aren't necessary to being a furry. And so, again, not about sex, not about the suits. And so you guys really need to check yourselves about what it is that you're saying about the fandom when you talk about it. And yes, society sees this fandom as weird, but I only think that's because the media is constantly pretending they're something that they're not, which unfortunately you guys seem to as well. Usually the worst parts of the fandom are sensationalized by the media for, what else? Ratings. Again, the anime fandom has become mainstream, but it's no longer considered weird, and there's no reason that the furry fandom shouldn't occupy this same status, except that people in the media keep pushing the idea that it's some animal costume sex fetish instead of what it is. A benign interest that almost every single one of us indulged in when we were children. Some of us grew out of it because society told us to, while some of us told society to get bent because we did grow up, and we still think these things are awesome. And so, TYT, Chank, Anna, and everyone else, I'm asking you to please stop pretending that this fandom is something it's not. I and many of your other loyal fans would appreciate no longer hearing things like this.
I'm going to defend furries because I feel like they get a bad rap. I think that this is the most harmless fetish on the planet.
So if they get off on, dressing up as animals and rubbing up against one another, God bless their hearts, right? If you want to have sex in it, I don't care. I'm not a Republican. Have at it, Hoss. If that's what gets you guys off, she's a chicken and you're a bear, go for it, okay?
They want to have sex. Now, do they have to have like a furry penis?
I'm just saying that it's strange, I think, to most Americans, especially the sexual angle, right? Mm-hmm. They're like, oh my God, oh, she's in a chicken outfit. Oh, that's hot. That's weird.
What is a weirder fetish than that?
Your baby thing is weird.
Do you think that furries are weirder? Because they don't just watch the videos, they actually want to engage in it.
I think a lot of women are gonna be like, oh, you're great, bear outfit.
But I'm sure that there are furries out there that just want to dress up like a certain animal while they engage in intercourse or whatever it is. And then there are the furries who like to do the really weird shit where they're like literally pooping in a litter box and they're like living their lives as animals, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it all depends. Like I feel like furries who just want to dress as like some sort of creature when they're having sex, it's not that big of a deal. But if you want to poop in a litter box, that is weird.
Long days and pleasant nights.